call the meeting to order of the July 18th Historic District Review Board. Roll call.
Mayor present.
Glasser present.
Tom present.
Strode present.
Okay, we have quorum. Can we stand for a minute for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any public comments?
There are not.
There are not. Oh, that's good.
Oh, thank you.
Did everyone have a chance to read minutes?
Age before beauty.
Oh, wait, first we have to approve the agenda. Everyone approve of the agenda?
I'll make a motion, we approve the agenda for the night.
I'll second that.
Okay, approved. And the minutes from February 22nd and April 18th, did you have any corrections or?
No.
I make a motion, we approve.
Second.
That's good. Okay, unfinished business? None. New business, applications for certificate of appropriateness. Fence installation, none. Modification to approved certificate of appropriateness. And the first one is 542 Jefferson Avenue. And who's representing?
The applicant is here. Ms. Stardy is here. As you recall, we saw this application back on 12/21/2021. They are building a new home, but now they are seeking to modify the columns that were approved for the front porch.
So this is new construction.
This is new construction. Yep. And as you can see, the pictures show the columns that were approved and the proposed columns on page 2 of the staff report. And for the Historic District Overlay Design Guidelines, I referenced 513.2, Building Elements and Materials.
Okay.
And I have the applicant here if you'd like.
Want to come up and give your name and just repeat what she just said?
My name is Betsy Doherty, and it is new construction at 542 Jefferson. We originally asked for the turn spindle colonial columns, and now we're asking for a square, 6-inch square, 8-foot high instead, because that's what we would like to have.
And why the change?
I don't know. I feel like the colonial spindle are they're not substantial enough looking to me.
But you're still using those on the other parts of the colonial.
No, it would be all
So you're
square.
changing all
On the porch.
entire house. That's not cool. I think we had it just for the front porch.
Well, so it is a front porch and there is a back stoop.
Okay. So they'll all match. That was my
Correct,
concern. that
yes.
You would have two different
Oh, no,
signs.
no.
And it's new construction, and you have the regs that say those are allowed.
Is there a reason why you want to do this?
I feel that the colonial turns, I think they're not substantial enough to me to be aesthetically pleasing. I would prefer square.
And that's the only reason.
Yeah.
But since it's new construction.
I mean, that's kind of where I'm at, back to Kathy's point, is it's a non-contributing structure. It doesn't matter, what my opinion is or is not.
It's just a design choice.
Exactly. So I don't see any issues.
But, okay, it is in the historic district, and it's in keeping with the historic nature of the town, and one of the most historic icons that exists in the town, I think, is the spindle that is the spindle design for the balustrades and that sort of thing. And I know there was an issue years ago when the Northampton Hotel was being put up, and it would have required an awful lot of spindles to do that job. So they're very reluctant, but after listening on what that meant, they said, okay. And so that's what we have today is that style. So that style is, you know, maybe every small town has that style, but that's one of the things that I associate with Cape Charles is that spindle style. I have a daughter that's in New York in an 1880 style thing. You go up the steps, there's the spindles and all, and so it's a historic reminder, I think, more than anything.
But if the house was a contributing structure, I would say that
Yeah,
would
that's
make
the
a
other thing, you
difference.
know, it used to be, I mean, it's replacing a house that was there, and that's still kind of in the back of my head. It is, you know, and Jefferson is rapidly coming up to be competing with the rest of the town in terms with the quality and the historic nature of the homes, and down a little further, there's some good ones. So anyway, that's just.
If I may, just to clarify, this isn't a question about the spindles on the porch itself, this is
The
just the
columns.
columns supporting the porch. So
So,
they're looking to change
yeah,
that from a round column to a square column.
yeah,
And I've seen many homes in town with the square.
but there
It's
is,
an arts and crafts.
you know, I was a little bit probably confused on this page that shows this spindle type column that's on page, where is it?
Correct, page 2 of 2, the statute.
2 of 2, right.
Yes,
That's, it was small, but that's an actual column.
yes, right, that is an actual column, this isn't a question that her front porch won't have spindles, the rail spindles is what you're referencing.
How-
It will, she's
how
just
high-
looking to change out the columns from being round columns to now being square columns.
How
Yeah,
high
okay.
is
So,
your porch off the ground?
I'd have to measure.
Now, I mean, does she need a handrail?
I'm hoping not.
I don't think she will need it, from the building code perspective, no.
I think that's what we had said last time.
She does not.
I think it's an appropriate style for this neighborhood.
Exactly, especially if she doesn't need a handrail, she wouldn't need spindles.
So, yeah, I mean, and initially you weren't exactly sure, or just wanted to see it that way, and I just wanted to give you food for thought, you know. I think what you want to do is probably okay, but just, you know.
It meets all of the guidance. There are many other styles of homes in town that have those type of rails, so I don't see why not.
Okay.
Anyone
I mean,
want to make a
we have
motion?
more than one of
Especially if it was a contributing structure.
It's not.
It's not.
It's not, so
So does someone want to make a motion?
I make a motion be approved.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you very much.
646 Tazewell. Almost the same thing. He's doing
Good
the
evening.
rails and the steps.
We had an applicant come in, and as you can see, this is a modification to an approved administrative certificate of appropriateness that was received on June 15th of 2023. Why you're seeing it today is because after it was approved to replace an existing front porch floor with wood porch flooring, the existing rotted wood steps with new wood steps, and the existing wood handrail with new wood handrail on the steps, all for like design. Our office was then contacted that the balustrades had been removed from the front porch, and after having a conversation with the homeowners, it was brought to our attention that the applicant was changing the design of the balustrades, which includes the balusters, handrail, and bottom rail. And as you can see, I did include, so everyone was understanding the parts of the porch that I was talking about, I did include the National Park Service diagram for parts of a porch. That's why I included that picture. So we are here tonight because she would like to go from the existing balustrade. As you can see, I'm on page 2 of 2. And the proposed balustrade are pictures of her neighbors, she told us, that she would like to go with. She did not have any actual photos because she said that she would be getting them made. And as far as the Historic District Overlay Design Guidelines, I went with the 311, pages 311, architectural style for the Victorian styles from 1835 to 1910 Queen Anne, and the pages 3-14 architectural style Queen Anne 1880 to 1915. I do not see the applicant here with us tonight.
No.
And as you can see in the packet, I did include what was administratively approved. And then all the conversations that we had with all the email conversations that we then had with the applicant.
I would like to make a general comment. It seems to be a trend now that people want to do certain things, and they bring it to the board, or they think about bringing it to the board, and they're worried they won't pass it, or they just don't care. And so they go ahead and do it, because the fines, they just eat the fines.
Did you wait
It's
until
like-
the first applicant left before you brought that up?
I didn't do that on purpose.
Okay.
Yes, it's a pain in the you-know-what to have to come here every time you make a change, but that's what the regs say, and they have to hold to that. You can't just go, oh, I don't like that, let's do something else. They won't care.
Yes, we have a process.
I understand. And people are foregoing that process. But anyway, that's just my opinion.
I work in this office, I understand. So if you want, we can try to call her. You want me to try to call her, maybe?
Did they say they would be available by phone?
Do you wish to
They
hear from them
didn't.
tonight?
I mean, because I don't want to, I'd rather try to call an applicant than put it on hold.
Do you wish to hear from them
Well,
tonight?
I guess my question is, what specifically, they want to change the balusters? Is that what we're discussing?
The balustrades and the hand, they want to change the top rail, the balustrades, and the bottom rail.
Okay, to the neighbor's picture here.
Yes.
Okay.
But they didn't indicate which neighbor.
It's Carol and Bruce
It-
Evans' property?
Correct.
And the Keel.
Because the one right next
Keelers?
door is a
Yeah.
Victorian home owned by Mrs. White, which has the turn spindles.
They specifically told us when we spoke with them.
The-
about Evans
The Evans property, yep.
Which is next door. It's the first house at Tazewell and Fig, which has.
I don't know.
square
Carol and
ones.
Bruce Evans' property,
Yeah.
Correct,
yes.
because he used to live across the street and sold
I
it.
don't know.
So, but the house right next door got turn spindles.
I mean, bottom line is this had turn spindles.
Yes, it did.
And we're supposed to replace like
For
with
like.
For like,
And that's not what's being done.
And it's a contributing structure.
It's a contributing structure.
Yes.
And if they're gonna replace them, they need to replace something as close to that. I mean, if they can't find that exact design, but it's a turn spindle as
Okay.
opposed to square. And that would be my recommendation.
okay, well then you all can make that in a motion.
I mean, that is, I've got that as chapter 4, page 11, section 4, is the retain and repair section, is what I was looking at.
If you'll just put that in the motion, please. Thank you.
Yeah. Martin, make a motion, please.
Yeah, what are we suggesting here?
Are we denying this?
Like for like.
Have they already done it?
No,
No.
there's nothing there.
So someone has to just make a motion as to whether or not we're gonna approve
Yes,
this.
you need to clarify.
Here comes Ms. Nunez.
So I don't want to get focused or just fixated on the like for like. Like for like is the standard for administrative approval at my level. This board can consider a different approach to the work being undertaken by the applicant That's why it comes to this board, because they are looking to do something different than what was originally on the property itself. So I don't want to say it needs to be denied because it's not like for like. I just wanted, it's now before you because it no longer can be approved by me. That's all.
Correct. However, if it's good enough for you to read like for like, it should be good enough for the board to read like for like.
But you do have the discretion and judgment under the historic guidelines to consider some alterations to design at a structure based upon the information presented. So I just wanted to make that clear. You have the ability to approve this, or you have the ability to deny this with appropriate supporting documentation or guidance from your guidelines to indicate why you would say no.
I think the applicant should be here
Yes.
so that he can.
So would you like us to call the applicant if we can and reach them by phone?
Did he say he would?
We have a phone number for them and we can make the attempt. We can make the attempt to call them. Oh,
Here they come.
excellent. Just on time.
You're up.
You're up because the board has some questions for you.
Okay.
Okay?
I see you came armed.
Yes, I had the millwork company make a mock-up for you.
My first question is why the change
The change,
in design,
we're just
square
going,
versus spindles?
because those spindles were from Home Depot.
Okay, but that's kind of the most common design in that era, were spindles.
Which era?
In our, let's see, you got it right there.
It's in the guidelines.
It doesn't say, it just says for the historic guidelines. What
Yeah,
are the other houses in your neighborhood like?
this. The house to the right of us has this.
Are they new though, where they were?
No, they're original.
The original?
All the houses that are original still have this. And the house that is 2 doors away from us, the Keeler's house, it was built by the same builder at the same time, and they have this. And we have other elements in the house that are the same as what he did in that house. So we took the historical consultant. Oh, I'm sorry. The builder that built the house 2 doors down from us built that house at the same time ours was built, within the same year. And it has other architectural elements that are the same as our house. So it was the closest reference point we could get to what would our house have had if it was built at the same time by the same builder. And then we had the expert from the millwork company come out, and he walked all around town with us, and he looked at all the other historic houses. And he said, in his opinion, it also would have had this originally.
And you also want to make some other changes? The decking?
No, this is wood for wood.
Okay. The balustrades?
This is the balustrade.
Okay. Well, then why? I saw something else on here. Okay.
So right now it has spindles, and you want to replace those with square.
Because you're saying that is more.
This is
apropos
what's
to the period.
historically accurate.
Well, like for like, I guess going in circles then, because
There is no reference for like from the original. We can't find any photos. The only photographic evidence we have is what was done
it
by the,
wasn't like the original was one thing and then had been replaced with the spindle.
correct. The house, for the owner that had the house before us, when he got it, had been abandoned for many years, and it didn't have a front, it had a porch but no railing. We left the turned porch posts. Those we know he replaced those too, but we think those might have been close to what would have been original, so we're not changing those. Just that.
So then, the question is, can we approve a change in the design? Based on the materials are okay,
Yes, you can.
It is shown in the guidebook,
Not that.
no, in the new ones, yeah, it has both designs in there.
Page 518.
Actually,
Which are both appropriate.
because I just want to make this really clear, because this is new guidelines for us this year, and we're still kind of working our way through understanding the guidelines and the process. So in chapter 2, it really talks about the process. And within chapter 2, we walk through what the administrator, in my position, can approve in the office that does not require your review. So if the material is going to be like-for-like replacement, I can approve that. If the applicant is seeking to change any sort of design elements, material elements, any of that nature, that requires HDRB review. So again, if you go to page 2-8, that outlines major actions requiring review by the HDRB. That's why we had to refer this. While it had been sitting in my office and I had approved this at some level, as the project continued to move forward and we monitored it and were notified that there were additional changes going on, and we spoke with the property owners, then we realized I could no longer approve it. I had to refer it to this board for your action. So that's what we're focused on tonight is, I'm not saying it has to be like for like, but now that she's choosing not to do like for like, but is moving in a different direction, and she's indicating it's
It has to come
back
to
to be
us.
more historically appropriate to the neighborhood and to the type of house she has, that requires your review and your decision.
So, I mean, if it fits the neighborhood, if there are other homes of the same age that has that design, Katie's just saying, it doesn't have to be like for like.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't have to be, but one neighbor has the spindles, the other neighbor has that.
That's the case in a lot of, if you walk down any street in Cape Charles, they're not all gonna have the same.
Exactly, right.
I think if it meets the guidelines design-wise, and it comes within the neighborhood design, I'm okay. Anyone, comments?
Michael?
I'm trying to, there was administrative approvals, but I thought this sentence, the owner that was brought to
What Katie
attention,
was
the
saying,
applicant was changing the design of the balustrade, which includes the balustrades, handrail and bottom rail.
what Katie just said is that when it was gonna be the same, she had the authority to approve it, but when they changed it, she had to bring it to us. So what you're seeing is the first round.
Yes, that's what the first paragraph was about. So if you go to staff recommendations, that's what we need you for.
So now that they've changed the design,
Should they
we have to
approve that?
decide.
Yeah, right. But, okay, but now it's a new design.
Correct.
Right? But it doesn't necessarily mean it's wrong,
No.
which,
And
I did the same thing.
I think it's similar to discussions we've had since I've been up here, where so much of the development in town has been piecemeal and, here and there and inconsistent. And I think, to your point, that these were not the original pieces that we're talking about replacing. There wasn't even a porch there over
Correct.
20 years ago. And, the fact that there are similar to that in the neighborhood, I don't think it's even a question of discretion necessarily at that point. Because we can't prove that, what they just replaced was what was originally there in the first place.
Because there are homes of
The
the
only-
same age that have the square.
There are. However, there's no photograph of the house with that style rail.
We can't help that.
Just telling you.
Okay. I hear you, but if you don't have any proof that it was not, what can you do? Someone want to make a motion?
I just, the justification for approving this as a like-to-like change was
No.
based on,
No,
I mean,
no,
you, but,
just pretend, forget the like to like,
all right,
okay? Like to like was her cutoff as to what she can approve.
yeah.
Anything not like to like, we have to approve. So that's why it's here. It doesn't have to be like for like in that particular situation.
We've never seen any other style except
I have that on my house.
the balustrade, no, at this particular unit.
Here, our house is near us.
I'm not sure.
Not, I mean,
I don't know if this helps,
their
but.
property,
That's
That-
the house across the street with that style. There's a house over
Right.
there with that style, that has a completely different style.
No, I have those in my house, my bed and breakfast.
Yeah.
And I have spindles on the house next door.
As we've identified in your staff report, this is a Queen Victorian style house according to the historic registry. I think
Thanks, honey.
it's upside down, so I'm gonna read this.
No, this is the one.
Sorry. Queen Anne style. And so in your guidelines, there are whole sections that talk about descriptive features of this, plus examples of that architecture in the town.
you see that?
So again, I know the pictures are really small to see, but if you enlarge them on your screen, some of those porches, while they do indicate as one of the traits or characteristics, is yes, there's ornate trim work or ornamental work, but not all the examples they have given us in our guidelines actually represent that. Some of them do have this. So I just want to make you aware, while it may be a feature, it's not representative in every particular Queen Anne style home in the district. So I don't think it is uncharacteristic.
Yeah, and
of
that's,
what's in our guidelines.
to that point, figure 5.9 and 5.10 on page 45 are similar to that
Yeah.
design.
Well,
And
if
those
you
are-
walk
those
down
are
my
being used
street,
as
every other one is
examples.
different. Are we at a point where someone wants to make a motion?
I'm going to recuse myself from the vote.
you can you do that?
Yep.
No.
I don't think you
Excuse
do
me
that.
again, and sorry.
Can't do that.
Yes, you can.
Do this
No,
to
you
the
can't do that.
She
microphone.
said no.
They passed the thing.
Actually, in order to consider a recusal, you would have to identify what your issue that you feel may bring you into conflict with acting upon this, and it's the board as a whole who gets to determine if that's a valid conflict or not to recuse you from taking any further action on this matter. So you would need to describe what your issue is.
I feel that you know what the issue is, that there's a
You have to
bias.
put it on record for the entire board to
Okay,
consider.
There's a personal bias between Mrs. Edom and myself.
And so this board now needs to determine, can that be overcome, or should Mr. Tom be allowed to recuse himself from, it should have been offered at the beginning to recuse you from participating in the discussion as well as any vote, but it is up to this board to make that vote. So we need to act upon that first before we take action on the application itself.
So abstaining due to personal bias, is that acceptable?
If you think it is such a conflict that he is unable to act effectively in casting a vote on this, then that can be a decision of this board.
We have to vote on it.
Yes. I've got to have a vote on record under our policies and rules that both you've adopted and town council has adopted relative to conflicts. Yes.
So how do I you have to make a motion
Mm-hmm.
that you approve her?
That he has a conflict and he is recusing himself from voting on this particular
That.
application.
Yeah.
Any seconds?
Did we second it?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
will
I'll
second
yeah.
that.
Okay.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's a fair and impartial judgment that.
Right.
Okay.
So
So-
we need to vote on this. All in favor, say aye. On the fact that we're allowing him to accuse himself.
Aye.
Are you in approval of that?
Did you make the motion?
Kathy made the motion, Martin seconded it, and a motion to allow her to recuse himself from participating in this vote.
And we're not voting on the issue, we're voting on him stepping out.
Oh, yeah, oh, sorry. Yeah, okay, I approve that, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, a similar thing was done for me last summer when I really wanted to get this vacation.
Now
Really
back
wanted-
to the
I didn't feel
So
like.
now back to
Okay.
approval of the design change.
Yeah, I think, I mean, honestly, I'm glad we talked through this a little more because I feel like we've made a little bit of progress on this, and I think my thought process has changed a little bit, but I don't think there's anything in here precluding accepting this. You know, I understand this roundabout like-for-like thing we keep getting spun out on, but, in retaining and repairing, but, you know, back to the point where what exactly are we retaining and repairing? You know, this design concept is found throughout the historic district. And because of that, I don't have any reason to, I'm prepared to make a motion in favor. And with that, I will make a motion to approve the application as proposed.
Second.
To approve, right? Yeah, I mean, you know, I could talk for a few minutes, but I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved.
Thank you.
Okay, next item, we're going to renovations minor after the fact approvals.
Okay, we're at 10A Peach Street, which is, everyone knows as AJ's. So the applicant is Lori Peters, and they replaced the front door. And if you'll see the pictures that have been provided, the door that was removed, and now it's the existing door. So,
I really like the new one. Do we know, was that the original door?
I don't know.
No, because it was.
I don't think so. Yeah, I think it was a garage door, if I remember correctly.
Oh.
And
there's
then
also
for the
difference of the lights on top.
Yes, the lights on top, which I noted in the,
And do we know if those were there before?
what the lights, no, I do believe that I'm really not sure. I do believe that I know that the original door to, I'm assuming the original door to this building was like a rolling, like sort of a garage door, but then it was replaced some time ago with the front door that they replaced it with, but I couldn't tell you when. But we're focused on the door that they replaced.
Now, this may not be related to it, but I noticed a lot of difference also in the wood trim around it. Just-
Yes, that was noted. That's what it said. It said that the office received a complaint that the applicant replaced the front 4-light wood doors with 18 light wood doors on the commercial building. Please see pictures under materials as the top of the entrance doorway was altered. And then we ordered all work to cease and to submit the appropriate applications to the town for this work. When we spoke to the applicant, she indicated that they have suffered continued breaking of the glass panels in the lower half of the doors by customers to their place of business, which is why they replaced the doors with fewer glass panels.
You said they replaced with fewer panels?
No, the new ones have more.
That's what I thought.
The old ones are 2/2,
2/2.
and the new ones are a lot more.
Lot more.
18 panels.
Yeah, I counted 18, but I don't know. Maybe I can't count.
that the pictures are in the wrong?
Yeah, the
Okay.
picture should be switched.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
The full glass door of the 18, that was the existing door. And the half door that you see now with windows, that's what's been.
That makes sense why,
Yeah.
okay, so these are the new ones? So, okay, if that's the opposite.
Yeah, see,
Break these
that's
out.
why, yeah.
And it wasn't malicious, it was accidental, as people were
Yeah,
coming in with
accidental
their bags and
breaking.
stuff, they were knocking
Breaking.
and breaking the glass at the lower levels.
I don't think that's that. So then you're also saying that those glass lights above it were taken out?
No, well,
Yes, they were.
yes, they were.
I think the one on the right is the existing one.
No,
Is there anyone here from them?
no, that's what I couldn't figure out. No, it just, I'm not that sure or not. Do you see that?
That's not correct. I can't believe.
No, it's not.
No, these two are wrong. Yeah, this is the old door.
This is the old
And
door,
this
this
is
is
the door. I see what
Sorry.
happened is from that one, yeah.
Yeah, it bumped our.
It bumped our editing.
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, I
think
should
we
have
need
checked it
someone-
bumped our editing.
From AJ's, a representative to clarify.
And we can, because again, this work has
Yeah.
already occurred, so
It's
it's after
already
the
done.
fact, so we definitely can insert her at the next meeting.
Yeah.
field
to-
trip,
to
maybe,
clarify that.
Yeah.
field trip.
And we'll go back out and make sure we've got the. it's
Yeah,
our-
I mean, it just doesn't, if you look at it, it doesn't
Yeah.
make sense.
It
Because the other one looks older.
Yeah, and I knew that there were changes to the top.
Yeah, so it makes more sense that the one on the right is the new one. But,
But it isn't, I can tell you that for
No.
certain. It isn't.
okay. Then we will table
Yeah.
voting on this particular application until the next meeting.
Yes.
And there has to be a representative.
So this is already completed? There's no-
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so there's no issues with having this discussion?
No, we received a phone call, as the work was going on, and by the time we got out there, not even an hour later, it was all finished.
Okay.
Yes. Okay.
Okay. Next. 2 Monroe. Covered a rear door opening and installed an outdoor shower.
This is Bobby.
Hi Bobby, this is Tracy in the Historic District Review Board. How are you? Can you hear us okay?
I can. How are you all doing?
Good.
Good. Wonderful.
So can you kind of summarize your application for us?
Oh, let me get in front of the computer. Sorry. I didn't know it was okay. Sorry. But, hold on one second.
So in the original application, we approved.
Right. I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, I'm sorry.
So,
The first time you came, I actually remember that, you were approved for the window change.
You're approved.
No, we had been approved for the new fence. If you all remember, we had sent the plat for that fence to be included in the alley. And that was approved, and then somebody came back and said that that was.
Excuse me. We're just going to stick to this application tonight?
We're just talking about the shower
And-
and the door.
And yes, so what we're talking about is just what you needed to come in compliance with for this application.
I believe the back door was approved as well in that original one, because there was a window there, we were just replacing the window with a flat. Is that the door you're talking about?
Yes, but you were also, I think, supposed to finish it off, but it just looks like it is plywood there, and a unapproved rear shower was placed.
Right, so that is, I guess, we had just done that, I didn't know that I needed a permit for that, or to be that is what we're submitting to have approval for.
What is covering
There's-
the old door?
There's a piece of pressure treated plyboard, and then there's a fence around it with the shower stuff inside of it.
So there's plyboard between the shower and the interior of the house?
Yeah, so there's an old door that was never taken off, so that door is still there. That was an exterior door. And so what is covering that door now is just a piece of pressure treated plyboard at the back of the shower.
And
So-
is that what you plan on leaving?
I guess what that makes me think, the shower's not then a permanent structure. It could effectively be portable, is that correct? You don't have that board nailed to the house covering the door, do you?
I'm not sure if it's nailed there or not, but it is.
Affixed in
attached
some,
to the top.
okay.
Yeah. And so we would like to leave that a bit. If you all would like for us to do something else, we're more than happy to meet what you all would like.
I don't.
It's confusing.
And did building code pass it?
Actually, if the applicant is looking over the staff analysis, it does say that the covered rear door should follow the Cape Charles zoning ordinance, section 3.2I develop standards. But in the original application, the door was supposed to be, he was gonna close it and cover it with siding to match the existing.
So a permanent cover of the door, nothing left open.
And so inside is, we drywalled over that door so you don't even see the door. But we did cover that door with we decided afterwards to add the shower. The previous owner had a hose and kind of latched it over the side of the fence, and that was, in quotations, a shower. And so we decided to make it, we thought, a little bit nicer and do an outdoor shower there, and instead of covering that with the vinyl and matching, that we would just cover it up and make it a shower, which was enclosed.
But it's still open underneath it. There's no covering, exterior covering, other than the wood.
Right.
So basically,
Covers your
you
body.
use the shower to cover up the old door.
Correct.
So Katie, this seems to me to be a zoning issue. Is this something that
building
should be
code.
dealt with, as Tracy mentioned, in the zoning compliance? No?
Well, no, it came back to you guys
The shower's in conformance, but the covered rear door is not in zoning
It's not
ordinance
permanent.
section 3.2?
Well, he got it approved by you guys, and he didn't do what he was kind of supposed to do because he was supposed to put
So
cover it
comes
with
down
the
to
original
you had
siding.
Submitted a different plan to us, and you changed it without coming back.
So it's up to you guys to say whether or not you like the look of that.
But isn't it still a zoning issue? Will he not have to fix the door covering to be in compliance with zoning?
I
And
guess
in
if
doing
it's
so,
not
the
there.
shower is not there anymore?
Part of this, I am trying to figure out from a historic review perspective, what do you want to see happen there as well?
In terms of covering that space?
Yes.
I think had he just put vinyl back to match the rest of the siding, and then put the shower up.
After approvals. After getting.
Are
the
you
correct-
asking me that?
Yeah, no, we're talking about alternatives.
Right.
It just seems like
So
it's not
basically-
finished.
Basically, it would look the same. If you put siding across there, and then you put the shower back over that, it would look the same as it does now.
No, it wouldn't. You're looking at a door now.
You cannot see the door at all.
You can
The
see
door
it
is
above
totally-
the shower. You
No.
can-
No, it's totally covered.
It's not in the photograph I got.
Yeah.
Page 54 shows the door above the shop.
There was a hole there previously that's a small hole that looked like it was a vent for something that had always been there. That was there when we bought the home, if that's what you're seeing.
No, he's talking about that. That's a vent. But we can see above the shower stall, that's the door.
So I did not take the picture that you all have. I believe the gentleman there, I don't remember his name, Bob, took that picture.
That's the door.
No, that's wood. If you look at the shower door, if you look at the shower, the backside that butts up against the house, there is a section that stands higher than the shower. Is that wood or is that an opening?
That's wood.
That's wood. Okay.
When are you going to, option to fill in the, vinyl siding?
No.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
When are you going to finish the vinyl siding?
We're not going to do anything with, we do not have any plans to do anything with the vinyl siding. We're going to leave it as is.
So you're gonna have plywood as one wall of your shower?
Yes.
That's not acceptable.
What is normally the back wall of the shower?
Pressure treated wood
That's pressure treated plywood, is what I was told by.
to match the design of the other walls of the shower.
Well,
And
that's kind of a in area, so it's got, I mean, it's the same color, but in order for it to be the back wall and cover the door, it needs to be larger than the rest.
Yeah, I mean, I think some of the issue here is it just kind of looks strange from the photo we have because what would be the back wall covering the door protrudes, I don't know, 1.5 to 2 feet above the shower structure itself.
Right.
But, I mean, this is not visible from the street. So this is not,
I mean, from a design standpoint, it's not gonna be us.
No.
It's gonna be a building code or zoning. And if they approve,
yep.
but you did do it without getting permission first. So there is that. So,
And
go ahead.
that, I was just gonna say, that's ignorance or innocence on my part. I didn't realize that I needed something for the back of the house for a shower. So, I'll call it ignorance. So I apologize for that if I should have taken that step.
It's not so much that you needed to get the shower, it's that in your original proposal, you said something different would be there. And that's what you changed.
Right. And it's like my wife says in the background, we thought we were improving it from the other structure that was around the corner, which was hidden by everything. So, I mean, we're more than happy to do whatever, if you want us to take the shower off and make the vinyl across the back side of the house, even though that's not what we want to do, we'll be in compliance to do, whatever we need to do to make it right.
That was your original proposal. And all we're saying is that you changed that without getting approval. So,
Right, well, that's why we're out to try to get approval for that, correct?
and I mean, technically, unless it doesn't meet building code or zoning,
You can make him do what he was supposed to do.
We can make him do what he's supposed to have done, and that's the vinyl.
okay. Someone want to make,
I make a motion that you stand up to the original application that you applied for, which is filling in the, area, removing the plywood and filling it in with the vinyl.
Okay. Okay, so moving forward, if we want to put a shower in, which is kind of the step where we are right now, what do we do to move forward to put a shower there?
if the, you still have to apply. But
That's what isn't that what this is for?
You would apply with just to the planning and zoning office.
You fill out an application with planning and zoning.
Isn't that what I did in this process?
Yes, but you won't have to come back to the board for that. Right now, we're just trying to get you in compliance with your certificate of appropriateness.
All right, so I just need to refill out that paperwork and submit it again?
not the whole application, that's
No.
historic. Just
I'm
for,
sorry?
it's a separate application.
Yes.
If you go online,
I'll talk to you about it tomorrow.
Okay. So how long do I have to remove that we have guests there now, obviously, so do I have a certain period of time to remove the shower? And if so, can I leave the door that was behind that there? Or do I need to?
Well,
Yeah,
that was
6
your
months.
original application, was to fill in that door that was there.
Right, but if, like, there were several things on the application we didn't do. And so if I just take it back to its original state, is that okay?
Put back the door?
And put a door back in?
Yeah, there's a door there, it was never taken away. I'm just taking the board off and the door will be, but,
So the board is just covering the door?
correct.
Yeah.
He could do that, yes.
Okay.
He could say,
Well-
I choose, because he is absolutely correct, because there were other elements of his scope of work originally that you approved that he chose not to move forward with and implement. He
So-
can do the same thing.
Either you go back to what it was before, or do the things that were in your original application exactly as described.
Got it. And how long do I have to do to get that taken out?
6 months
6 months?
Yeah,
to get it started.
Okay, that's fine. I'm happy with that.
great, thank you.
Okay, I
Thank you
have
so
a
much.
motion, but I don't have a second on any of this.
I
Hold on
second
one
it.
second.
No, Herb, you made the motion.
Now, I'll second.
Thank you.
And the motion was again?
To remove the plywood and fill in with the
Remove
vinyl,
the plywood.
or restore the door as originally applied for.
Right,
Okay. And Michael, you second?
right.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. So the vote is what we just said. Remove the plywood, put the door back, and restore it back to what your original plan was. And then if you want to put a shower, freestanding shower, you do another application in a different department.
Got it.
No, it's still the same
Thank
thing,
you.
planning and zoning.
Yes,
You're welcome.
it's not for you.
All right, thank you so much. Y'all have a good day.
Okay,
You
bye-bye.
too, you too.
Wow.
All right, last, oh. Renovations, additions, and new construction, none. Commercial district, none. Other, none.
Katie will go over because we do have another one that we put
Okay.
under a request to the board.
Okay, one more addition to the agenda.
Well, it's already on there, it's just under request. to
So
the
under my report to you, I just am, again, letting you know, we did approve certain minor exemptions during the last time since we've met, and those are all listed for your review. If you have any questions, feel free to forward them to me, and we can discuss them. Otherwise, I will move on. We've had no compliance checks relative to certificates of appropriateness that we've already issued for this month that has passed. The item that was added to this agenda, because again, as you recall, we have set a calendar in which we have established our meeting calendar as well as the deadline to receive applications in. And the calendar had passed for this particular meeting when this item was raised to us, and we've been working with the property owner and their representatives to try and figure out what's going on and to see if we can reach resolution. So after talking with the chairman, I did add this under my report so that we can have this conversation today, and it's relative to 305 Mason Avenue. Again, they were originally approved for certificate of appropriateness on June 8th of 2021. To cover and so exactly what has happened since then is to cover the unrepairable historic mural with stucco, and for certificate of appropriateness to stucco the entire building. So originally, when this came before you, the applicant was seeking to try and reclaim the Coca-Cola mural that was on the side of Strawberry Street in Mason. And there were other detailed information in that entire application. It was a lengthy application that we met 3 separate times, I think, to hear the entire application and reach approval on.
Because we talked about the windows, the rail.
That's correct, because there was a whole interior renovation work that's going on
Correct.
to convert that to apartments, residential dwelling units, I should say. So moving on from there, We got a call indicating the Coca-Cola mural little peak that had already been obtained was no longer evident in what was going on with the property. So we reached out to the owner of the building and their project representative, or in this case, the general contractor. And they've provided us certain information, which we've now enclosed for you to look at. Both a letter and pictures indicate there was significant damage to the mortar bind of the existing brick causing crumbling, and therefore that the general contractor and the property owner made the decision to stop the restoration of the mural. We informed them that this should have been reported to our office and relayed to the board for a modification to the approved COA. While we were getting details on what the new proposal was for this area of the building, it came to our attention that the existing exposed brick that was in the right-hand corner of, as you approach Strawberry and Mason, was being covered with mud in preparation for stucco, which again was not covered under the original C of A. We again reached out to the general contractor. We provided them all the backup materials because it didn't seem like he was in possession of what had been approved by this board and the full scope of work. So we wanted to make sure he had that as we were discussing this with him. We then went out onto the site, confirmed this further just to make sure we understood what was being done. And actually the entire side of Strawberry had been stuccoed over, and then a portion of the front of the building has now also been stuccoed over on Mason Avenue. And there was brick underneath the glass storefront window on Mason Avenue. That has also now been prepared to be stuccoed fully over. So we wanted to get this before you to have some input and discussion with the applicant and their representative as to what their course of action, what they are proposing to do, what was originally approved, what you think under the guidelines should be occurring on this property, and how best to proceed forward from the board's perspective on this. We did ask them and ordered that they stop all work on the exterior of the building until this could come before you. That's one of the reasons why we put this onto this agenda, because we wanted to act in haste and hurry with you so that we weren't holding them up from continuing on this very important construction project that's been ongoing in town for some time now. I do know as of this morning, and again, I haven't talked to the applicant, the property owner, or their general contractor, but I hear some additional work has continued on the exterior, and some of the star features are now being covered over with mud as well. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention, and we can have that conversation. If I'm inaccurate, because I've not had a chance to get out to the site myself today, I accept that being an error being reported to you, but I'd like to at least raise it and make sure we can have some clarity both on the star features as well as everything else we've discussed in this report. And I do believe we have our representatives are here from this property. Okay?
Hi, could you state your name?
Absolutely. My name's Chris Elam. I'm with RBA Architects. I prepared the drawings for and presented the drawings for the first round of the certificate of appropriateness as well. I appreciate y'all rushing this onto the agenda. Much appreciated.
I have a question. The initial stop work order, Katie, when was that sent?
Say that again.
The initial stop work order.
I had never actually physically issued a hard copy of the stop work order. It was all done by phone. I don't remember the exact date. It was after 4th of July, but before last Monday.
But work still continued.
Well, I want to clarify. I think the issue that was mentioned about the stars being covered is not, I believe that's misreported. Certainly, I was out last week and the stars were still visible, and the owner and contractor are here today as well, and they confirming that those are not being covered over, not intended to be covered over. So since the stop work order, I believe we've been fully in compliance. But if you don't mind, I was hoping to explain how we got to the deviation.
I read your letter and I looked at all of your information. And it's not how you got there, it's what you did. I understand why you had to cover it, because the brick was not good and it had to be repaired. The biggest thing that we're talking about with all these applications is, fine, you want to make a change, come back and ask us. Don't just do it.
Yeah, understood. And I was not, aware that the changes were being made personally, and I think that as I understand, the contractor and the owner weren't aware of the specificity of the certificate of application, of appropriateness
And
that
whose
they,
fault is that?
who's,
And why is that?
Because I was thinking in terms of safety of the building and the condition of the brick as opposed to a compliance issue with historic review board. I was not aware.
And how, I mean, what made you come to the decision without consulting anyone in the town?
The brick was, in my opinion, was unsafe.
Fine. Did you tell us?
I was not aware that I had to tell you.
It's a change from the original
I
application.
realize that, but I was not in possession, nor was I a participant in the original meeting minutes for the historical data review board. I was only made aware of the non-compliance after the fact, when we got to stop work.
When you get a certificate of appropriateness, everything you put in there has to be complied with. And everyone doing work on your project needs to know that. So you can't go back and say, oh, well, Joe didn't know that.
Well,
It comes back to the owner or the original person. You're responsible to make sure people know that.
The owner.
So at this point, we're in a quandary. Oh, and why did you cover the front bricks with stucco?
yeah, so those bricks were discovered to be, in the process of the construction, were discovered to be actually a thin brick, a sticky brick, that's applied to the actual structure, the historic brick of the building. And that, in conjunction with the discovery that we weren't going to be able to save the mural, we decided that it was going to be appropriate to go to a fully stuccoed design.
I just want to ask you a question. Who did you talk to and with historic knowledge about the mural? About the restoration, or what are we going to do to preserve the mural? Who did you speak with?
Well, I've been personally brought in sort of after the fact, and I don't, I guess they can second for me, but I don't believe that anyone was spoken to about the historic preservation
so-
of the mural.
So we can't hold you responsible for that, is what you're saying, correct? Correct?
Yeah, I think that's
Okay, so
fair.
with the other two people that are sitting there, who can we hold responsible for making that rash decision?
Of course, it's me.
Well,
I'm
no,
the
no, no.
owner. I'm the owner, and the Coca-Cola was discovered because it started falling apart. The stucco started falling apart in the last 3 years.
Could you come
Nobody
forward,
knew-
please?
Well, can't you hear me? I have very
Yeah,
good
come on, you
projection.
must be talking about
I can't hear you.
it. We are not questioning.
If you can come to the microphone, because we're broadcasting on Facebook
And
as
recording.
well, and they can hear it.
It's not the fact that the brick was deteriorated and need to be repaired. It's the fact that you didn't ask.
I am so sorry about the fact that and I apologize because I've been stopped so many times, and I'm not here to be scolded like a little girl in school. That's what you're doing here, slapping my hand, and I apologize. I have been stopped continuously with this project of trying to not only save the building because it was totally falling apart, but also to beautify the center of this town in this corner building that I am paying a tremendous amount of money, engineers, architects, commercial builders. We're not talking about me making, why do you think I'm an artist? I'm not here
Everyone
to,
would like to do that.
yeah, I'm not,
That's why we have a historic board.
and I apologize, we have been 3 times in front of the historic board.
I've been in front of it
Right.
5 times. And
3
that's not the
times.
point.
So the Coca-Cola sign, which of course are historic, I mean, let's face it, it's an advertisement for Coca-Cola, which is a brand that is,
Can I just interject something? First of all, the Coca-Cola sign is a historic part
yes.
of your building.
Mm-hmm.
You realize that? Now you realize it.
I realized it because it was
Okay,
there, but I
let me
didn't know
ask
it
you
was
a
there.
question. Didn't you,
Neither did you.
I think you spent a considerable amount of money 5 or 6 years ago to restore that sign? Didn't you have it coated? Never did?
It's not even completely revealed.
If I may interrupt for a minute, if we can all just take a breath and pause. This is not meant to create anger and angst. We're really trying to find a solution moving forward with this. Is that correct? I think we've heard from Clelia. She's made some mistakes here. Yes? We all agree with that? We acknowledge it. She said it. I think you've asked some relevant questions relative to what sort of expertise has been brought in to help do the evaluation on the bricks, and that should be, I think, answered, and hopefully with the architect, he can help assist in giving us that answer, because our general contractor, project manager she's using may not have that expertise. And so,
I can answer this question.
okay, and I appreciate that. So I think at this point, I really don't wish to continue trying to focus on the blame issues. I really am trying to make sure we have a path forward before we can hopefully reach some decisions today. I understand there's a lot of anger. I get that. And I'm not disputing that. And you're correct in saying the Coca-Cola mural was proposed by the applicant, and this board discussed it at length before we move forward in saying, yes, we would approve that as part of her certificate of appropriateness for them
To be retained.
to explore it, to expose it, and then to restore it. That's correct.
And that's in the Secretary of Interior's notes.
Yes.
Well, so you clarify for me though, so that mural was a previously covered section of brick of the building, right? It was stucco fell off of a brick veneer.
Yes, and it was a feature that was part of the original building when it was constructed, when it was a pharmacy, back in the 1914 through 16 when that was constructed.
Right,
Yes.
but the stucco veneer is also a historic part of the structure.
Yes.
And as far as I know, things that are painted on and covered over at a previous date is not something, I mean, it was our intention to restore the mural, and unfortunately it wasn't
It says it
viable.
right here in the Secretary of Interior's guidelines.
It says, would you mind?
Sir,
It says what?
I'm sorry.
He can't read that, he can't see what you're pointing.
Yeah, what does it say?
It's the Secretary of Standards, and this is from the Interior Department.
Understood.
What does it say?
And here, you can read it.
Thank you.
Because there's about 5 sections that are important.
And I understand your concern for safety
Yeah.
and to make it better so that the building doesn't crumble. The main reason the historic committee was formed was to kind of have some guidelines and control of people wanting to do things. Like, yes, I want to make that building more beautiful, but have them do it within guidelines. And that's why we're here. And so when people just start saying, oh, well, I'm going to put a lot of money into that and it's going to be beautiful, that's not really the point. The point is we're trying to keep it.
Yeah. No, I understand.
Was.
And
I
you're
do
an
understand that. I
architect.
think, right, and I think that that this, if there's a deteriorated historic feature on the side of this building, it could as easily be argued that that's the stucco, not the mural. The stucco is historic, and in fact, you're referenced in your guidelines, this building is referenced as the only, one of the only representatives of extensive use of stucco in the downtown corridor. And that mural it didn't turn out to be a feature that we could save. And I don't mean that it was deteriorated. We would have had to wreck out substantial amounts of the stucco in order to expose this mural, and it turns out that it wasn't possible. We were going to do more damage to the historic brick by trying to remove the stucco. I understand, like, I think we were all excited at the notion of restoring a mural.
Correct.
And it didn't turn out that we were capable of doing that it was possible. But it is possible for us to rehabilitate the stucco of the building, which is also a historic feature that was covering that area prior to it falling away, whenever that was,
It wasn't on the front.
Yeah, the front, so we definitely want to separate these two issues.
There are 2 issues.
There's two, yeah. So the mural, We feel like it was, we were well-meaning in the initial application, and we weren't able to do what we had hoped. The second one, the brick, is a different concern, agreed. And again, Clelia should have come back to the board and requested this change rather than proceeding with it. And unfortunately, we're working from, the wrong angle at it, but we want to now have the conversation about, can we cover that brick in stucco? And we think there's some good support for it.
I do want to say one thing, and here's what it says in the National Registry of Historic Places. This is from our own, when they did a survey. It says about that, because you keep bringing up brick and how it was not brick. It says other early commercial brick buildings dating from the 1890s and early 1900s, including the McCrory's Store Annex and the Cape Charles Emporium, both located in the 200 block of Mason Avenue, and Savage's Drug Store at the corner of Mason Avenue and Strawberry Avenue. All of these buildings are 2- or 3-story brick buildings.
Oh, no doubt, it's a brick building. In fact, it's load-bearing, triple-width brick. Correct. And we've been, dealing with that. But it's, and I have a picture to show. It's a different brick that we're discussing now. The area that we're proposing to cover over with stucco. So you can see on the left side of that page is the exposed stucco where the mural was, and you can see that the size of the brick, the texture of that brick is different from the ones that are on the right-hand side.
Correct.
And it was discovered that those are, they're not full-width bricks. They were applied
That's
to
where
the
the
face.
entryway was that was later filled in,
Right.
correct? Is what we're talking about?
Right.
Okay.
Right. So, and when was the entryway filled in? Do you know?
I'm not,
Yeah.
So what made you go with stucco instead of brick? It was easier and cheaper.
No, not at all. So that was a decision that I suggested because of the fact that that was a brick veneer, and to bring that building to an aesthetic that was also correct. As we were doing the process of removing the material for the Coca-Cola sign, we discovered that it was actually yellow prior to that red paint being on there. I know Jake Savage, so I contacted him, and he reinforced with me that that was yellow in his childhood, which would have
Next to it.
that the entire thing. So the veneer that was there was actually placed over top of the brick as a cheap alternative to restuccoing and restoring it to its former glory. So I did provide photographs of Cape Charles that showed the Savage Drug Store in that color palette that you see there. So the decision to cover the veneer was purely and simply trying to uniformly restore a look that would be more consistent with 90% of the building. We're only talking about a very small portion of brick veneer that was, my opinion, probably in the late 70s was applied to the building, maybe even more recent than that, because it's just a veneer. So you talk about a brick being 3 inches by your typical brick. There's 3 layers of brick on the wall underneath that veneer. So the veneer essentially was just an aesthetic Band-Aid that they placed on there, and a cheap one at that was not aesthetically correct, wasn't historically correct for the building, and was, in my opinion, the right thing to do was to try and restore it to what would be a more historic.
When you say restore, I'm thinking taking all the bad stuff off and bringing it back to the original.
Well, in that instance, yes. The removing of the veneer would have been very similar and damaging as we did just trying to remove the stucco from the Coca-Cola sign. The Coca-Cola sign was actually, you could see light through into the building, and I sent photographs of that. Correct. So if we were to take a step back and then to begin to try and restore the brick in the front of the building, it would have been a peeling off of the veneer that was applied to the building to expose the original brick. And in that situation, I made a decision that would be probably the more structurally safe would be to match the exterior with what was previously there below the veneer. Because it was stucco at one point. I'm very confident of that.
Well, and again, I think it seems to me to be a really reasonable proposal, you know, in keeping with the design guidelines to go to stucco. The building is specifically mentioned.
To the upper half, not the bottom.
Well, I mean, there's still more than 50% of the bottom of that
No,
building
and-
is stucco.
And that's fine, I'm just saying, you change the look.
No, understood, and, you know, we're now applying for the right to change the look, and we believe that stucco is, for the entire building, a consistent, uniform facade that, you know, is in keeping with the historic character of the building, and then also matches the color of the surrounding buildings. You know, we believe it's.
So we're in a position where we have to make a decision either to approve the stucco, all the stucco, not approve it, make it go back to brick. Make part of it go back to the brick.
Well, if I may, one other additional key point that has to be made here is that veneer was placed on there after stucco. So if you peeled it back, we're back at stucco. And then now you're saying you want to go back to brick. It's really peel the veneer, take the additional stucco off underneath that to expose the 3-layer wall that's really below a veneer and the stucco. And then
It's not practical.
it's also, you know, with what happened on the Coca-Cola sign, it would conceivably happen on the removal of the veneer to restore the brick. I also have to point out something that is very much happened to me just recently. I feel like I've been the whipping boy of everybody. So the Coca-Cola mural, there were fans of the restoration of it, but there are also detractors that let me know that there's no murals in the town of Cape Charles. So I was getting yelled at from both ends. And I don't really have a bias in any way whatsoever. My first action was, this is unsafe, let's point the brick up, we'll reinforce it with fiber mesh, and then place masonry over it. It's stronger, and it's definitely something that was my priority because we've now changed what was there by chipping away the brick. So that's also something that you take a hammer drill and you're chiseling away. It's more archaeological than it was restorative. And in the case of that Coca-Cola sign, it was just bringing out the defects in the wall that needed to be repaired.
So it can't be done, or it's
you know-
so impractical to remove it.
Right, but I fear for the owner, my client, in that, you know, the situation that I made from a professional standpoint of eliminating the veneer because to expose the old brick has caused her a lot of stress. I'm very sorry that everybody has, you know, these unfortunate reactions to what I did in terms of construction. I did not intend to offend anybody with regard to the Coca-Cola sign, and I clearly did not intend to offend anybody with the covering of an ugly veneer, in my opinion. So that's where I leave it. I take responsibility for those activities, and basically my client was, you know, she's very emotional because she's trying to do things to beautify that corner, and I'm responsible for that, and I clearly, you know, with Chris's design and what you see presented to you now, I feel is wonderful. I think that it is going to take the best of all of that time and bring it to historical correctness, because that's the color it was prior to it being the red. And that's something.
It would be great if you were in New Orleans.
Well, I don't have a, you know, a preference on that. I'm only talking about the structure.
Yeah, no, it just comes down to, yes, we want to see it made more beautiful within the context.
So the start.
At this point, I think we're stuck with the stucco.
I think some of the other board members would like to weigh in.
Yeah,
with some
I didn't
questions.
want to interrupt, but just my thoughts, this is much along the lines of a after-the-fact type
It is.
situation, so it's not really, it doesn't cause for anything unusual. We get those, I won't say all the time, but it's not the first time we have to deal with this, and I'm For myself, a few meetings ago, I started to ask the question, do you anticipate any unanticipated, and I just stopped in the middle of the word because, what? What are you saying? Do you anticipate anything unanticipated? It sounded so I didn't really say what I meant, and this is kind of what I meant was as you're going along, you have to make decisions all the time, and you really don't know at what point the threshold is crossed where you have to get approval. And so because of that, there are times when after the fact approvals are needed because in the best of intentions, these things happen. So I can see that, you know, in the efforts to preserve overall what's going on in that whole street and everything like that. And it's understandable that something like this could happen.
Well, thank you.
I think, the process of construction on this building has been, as it always is with an old building, a bit of an archaeological process, a bit of a process of discovery. And, you know, that has been the case at the interior and the exterior. Obviously, you all have the, you know, authority with regard to the exterior. But, yeah, it has, you know, the discoveries of the materials, you know, changed.
I was a big fan of that sign, believe me. But,
Yeah.
you know, it seems like we need to be reasonable about all of it.
And I guess the perfect example is unanticipated. So during the process, I've been trying to find out when the building burned. So there's evidence of a fire, and it occurred in between what was the original demising wall of the two units. So there was originally 2 units in there, and then on the second floor, we had to reinforce and we had to repair an extensive amount of substandard framing. So we actually raised the roof 2 inches so that we now have a consistent fall for water. Water was staying up there on top of it prior to us going up and reinforcing and reframing the second floor. So to come back to the stucco on the exterior, in the drawings, and this is somewhat ambiguous as far as how people interpret the drawings. On the drawings that I've been presented, it says structure to remain. My opinion as a contractor, as a builder, is structure is structure. The original brick beneath the surface of the veneer, structure to remain. By placing the stucco over the veneer, I felt like I was within the intended design features of the drawings, which is basically the stucco features above to remain, and it says in there structure to remain. And so in my opinion, structure is the original brick below that veneer. And so by taking the not the path of least resistance, but the most appropriate way to restore the building, which would have been to reinforce that veneer, as opposed to, I wasn't doing anything to, you know, have people get upset, that's for sure. And I don't really intend to carry forward with that same thing. I want to make sure that we meet the guidelines, and I think that the architect has done a very nice job. Whether you like the railings or not, that's not my concern. I'm more in turn of that building itself. So the railings can change, and you can change in aesthetic, so you don't have the New Orleans look, and you could be more Cape Charles consistent. That's easily done with some changes there, but that's up to you know, the owner and the architect to do that part of it. But structurally, that building is becoming safer as we speak.
So, Katie,
Yes, ma'am.
what are our options?
Okay, so let's kind of walk through, so we take vote by vote. If you guys don't mind, and I'll hit the microphone so everybody can hear me on Facebook. So the first thing is, is this board accepting the information provided relative to the mural, that it cannot be restored? Do you feel we've received satisfactory information to that effect, that I think a good faith effort was made to bring it back, and it has not succeeded? Are you sufficient with the information provided?
Holes and everything, so.
Compelling picture.
I just have one question. Could it be painted over your stucco?
The stucco be painted?
Yeah.
Of course.
So the mural could be reproduced over your stucco.
But the town of Cape Charles has a standard that says there's no murals in the town.
It does, well, let me back up.
No.
Excuse me for a second. Let me just make the record clear on this. We actually do not have a town policy, nor in our guidelines, anything relative to public art of any kind. We have had opinions expressed over the time whether there should be any public murals, public art of any kind, and those have been taken up on a case-by-case basis.
Correct.
I get there's been a huge opinion on this particular building and what should happen on it, but this board did make a decision, and that was included in the certificate appropriate, to allow for the Coca-Cola mural to be restored if possible, and I think that's where we are today, is it does not seem possible to restore it. Are you satisfied with the information provided to reach that judgment?
I'm not. Sorry.
Okay.
All right.
It's,
I don't think that the contractor or the architect went to the appropriate people to see if they couldn't restore the existing mural and border it with their stucco, which has been done.
well, so again, that's where I started, and I know Nick indicated that he does feel he has sufficient experience relative to this, and so maybe he needs to speak to that a little further. Thank you.
So the removal or the restoration of the Coca-Cola sign involves hammer drilling and chiseling, which effectively is taking and just
I understand that.
impacting the structure. So as we impact the structure, that brick crumbled like bread as we were taking it down, taking what was left of the Coca-Cola sign with it. So what was exposed was literally no more than the front portion of your dais up here. So we were talking maybe after we exposed the parts that had the loose, easy to go, we still only had maybe a partial lower C and O. The reason why people can identify Coca-Cola is because that's the same logo that they've had for generations.
Right.
So I would argue then that, if you're going to have us paint a Coca-Cola mural on there, it's really just an advertisement for Coca-Cola, who's nothing to do with this, what we're talking about here.
And it's done.
But it was part of the original structure, advertisement, no matter what it was. You can categorize it any way you want. It was a historic part of the historic district of this town.
I'm not arguing with you, sir. I'm just saying, I'm just pointing out a fact that the original one that was done in 1930 or whatever is gone. There's nothing I could do to save that.
Yes, it can.
Well,
Then it's,
I think
then
it's
it
been,
loses its purpose. If you redo it, it's no longer historic.
I think it's been saved, actually. I think it's being preserved under a veneer of stucco. So, I mean, nothing destructive was done to that thing. It just has to be covered because you couldn't do anything without destroying it.
That's correct. Yes, sir. So again, I'd like to apologize to the board for causing you this much stress, but at the end of the day, I feel very confident that you're going to have a very strong, safe structure in the heart of town that is, it's going to be a very nice, I mean, if the railings are not the historical, I'm sure Clelia would be able to comply with what you think would be more appropriate on that regard. We just didn't have that much time.
Based on that here in a second.
Okay.
One at a time.
All right.
So I'm back to the mural. So can I get a decision or consensus from this board relative to the mural and their position that it cannot be restored and exposed to be part of this project moving forward?
At this point in time, it cannot be restored. And painting a new one over the new stucco defeats the purpose.
Yeah, not an advertisement, yeah.
It's acceptable by the Secretary of Interior.
Okay. I
It is.
make a motion that it cannot be restored without further damage to the building. Therefore, we have to accept it.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Okay. Then the second item, and we have like 4, so give me time to get through each one if you don't mind. So again, on the Strawberry side of the property, I am going to refer to the drawings, the new drawings that have been provided to us by Mr. Elam this evening. So again, there used to be, and I know it's hard to see with the tree there used to be a corner of brick right at the corner of Strawberry and Mason, right where that tree is. So again, all of this is now being proposed to be stuccoed over. This is the side of Strawberry.
It's
I understand that. So that is still a decision point for this board to either concur with the course of action that they're clearly underway in doing and propose to do. We want to provide you the visuals for it. You seem confused about what we're looking at.
So we're talking the north-south corner.
Yes,
And that was
Strawberry Street.
the original entrance.
right.
Where that was filled in
Right.
at some later date.
Again, I make the comment that in order to restore it back to brick, we would do further damage to the building.
Well, I think it's new brick.
Put new brick over the
No,
side.
it is new brick in that, because that was the original entrance, that corner we're
Right.
talking.
Yes, it was. It used to be a catty corner entrance
Yeah.
into the pharmacy. Yes.
So the brick that is there currently is not the original.
So what would you propose?
And I think there's photographic evidence that this buff color was the original color.
And we don't weigh in on color at all from this board.
It's not in our purview.
That's correct. That's not under our purview.
Okay.
So this motion you're talking about right now is whether or not to approve the covering of that brick corner.
Yes.
And my comment is, it's done. If you take it off, it's gonna do more.
I get it's done, but this is a vote this board needs to take either to endorse this action or to set in motion what should be other actions they would need to take for this building. So you need to make that decision.
I think because that brick is not original, that was the original entryway, in maintaining consistency on that corner, the appearance, everything else on the Strawberry Street facing side, I would make a motion to approve that
Okay?
stucco over the newer brick.
I second.
Anyone can second.
I'll second.
Okay?
All in favor?
Aye.
Nay.
Okay. Then I'm going to keep us on Strawberry for a minute, just because in the drawings that have been provided to us, there is some changes. So I wanted to highlight those for a second. I don't think that the railings, either on Strawberry Street, am I correct in saying Strawberry too? They are wrought iron, which is what you previously approved. There is a slight design change in the renderings from Mr. Elam. So I guess I would just want to ensure that the applicant is walking away understanding we're not approving these renderings for the railings at all, but we are referring back to the original approval and what you reviewed and said yes to do, which was a wrought iron style railing, both on the side, but not that sort of,
Bowed out.
right. So before,
We're certainly open to, discussion about that.
Sure.
The bowed out was meant to complement the railings that are across the street, so to fit in with the context of the area. And, we felt that we were in sort of general conformance with the previous design style, but we're certainly open to input on the railing.
Well, the issue is, if that's what you wanna do, you have to come back to us with a modification to the original.
Yeah, and we were hoping that since we're here, so we added to this rendering the current thinking with regard to the railings. We've also strewn some, signage on the side of the building and
we're coming to that next.
And a light fixture. So these are.
And
we
I say
wanted
that,
to-
and maybe I could have considered this if I saw this on Friday. I got this morning.
Yes.
So,
It's very, he did a lot to get
Right.
something for you to look at. That's really, we've only been under stop work for a week.
And we wanted to make sure
We wanna
that
make
this
sure you had
time
something.
we were all really clear about what it is that we had intended. There's obviously a lot of design decisions, that have to be made.
Katie, you wanna go ahead?
okay, so again, and that's part of this, I hear from the contractor and the architect, and potentially even from the property owner, that these are design decisions still to be made. I disagree with that statement. Those were design decisions that were made and submitted to the application that this board reviewed back in February of 2021. So again, I'm not saying that they can't come forward and say, we want to change a style or material look, But that's a decision that needs to be better presented to this board versus pushing this through, these particular elements through, which were not part of this advanced hearing this evening. So I want to make that clear. We really wanted to ensure they could keep going with their exterior work. That's why we pushed this onto this agenda, so that we could get this matter heard and keep them moving on the exterior. The railings, if they're looking for a different style of railing, then I think that can be a modification that they put forward in a true application to us, and we can take that up next month, because that doesn't preclude their continued work on this building, on everything else that we can reach resolution on tonight.
Actually, it would be September because it was a date.
Okay,
Yeah.
September. So, thank you. So I guess I'm going to turn for just a minute from this board, because I've pointed out the issue. Is this something that you wish to seek a modification on, or would you be fine to live with the original drawings that were approved back in '21?
And this is in regards to the
railing?
railing?
Both this and this. While we approved wrought iron, it wasn't quite this style.
Yeah, I don't think this is.
Right, I think these are the elevations that were submitted as part of the original.
And you gave us
approval.
renderings at that meeting as well. We can provide those if you don't have copies in your files any longer.
No, I
So
should
that would have been the last set of the construction drawings. And I don't have those in this
This
particular.
is all that we have to go by and receive that.
Right. Okay, well, the building permit referenced a little bit different railing than what's on that. So the building permit was approved based on what we submitted with our.
Based upon the
construction
renderings that were approved in '21.
Yes,
Yes.
so I think I'm consistent there, I just don't know about the railings.
Should just vote on the stucco issue, and any design changes should be done as a modification.
Yes,
and
that's all
presented
I
as
want to
another
highlight
amendment.
on. Okay. Same thing with the additional signage that they're showing on this as well. That would need to come forward with the sign application for this property. Okay, so moving on to the front of Mason. So again, it's a similar conversation. Again, I know it may be hard to see in some of our original pictures that we provided to you, but underneath the storefront window, they may be calling it the brick thinsulate or the brick veneer, but that was a brick layer underneath the storefront windows, and they are proposing that be fully stuccoed under here.
Yeah, and again, that's the same brick, that same sticky brick as was found on or thin brick as was found on the front corner.
So we are deciding if we will approve that change.
Yes,
Can we ask any questions?
you absolutely can.
Okay. And I'm kind of checking my memory here. We originally talked about this. I remember the question of whether or not we should do any changes to the top part of the window, I thought came up. And I thought one of the reasons given for leaving it the way it was is we want to create the effect of a Juliet balcony. So I kind of got all excited about that, because if in any way this could be presented as that, I mean, for the limit, for everybody else, it'd be a big moneymaker, because the tourists would come in to see these Juliet balconies.
And that is what is proposed and is still in the plans on Strawberry Street. Those will be Juliet balconies. Those windows will be converted into those
Okay.
balconies.
Okay,
Yes.
that- 'cause
And they
I'm-
will, and we ended up in several meetings negotiating the size of the doors / windows, whatever you wish to call them, that would be opening and keeping them within the existing framework of
Correct.
those openings.
Correct.
Which we're well on track.
Yes,
Okay.
and they're on track to doing. So yes, you're still going to get those Juliet balconies, but it was only on the Strawberry Street side of the building.
Yeah.
So on the front of the building, I'm doing this all off of memory, so I
So
hope I'm right.
now we are deciding whether we are gonna accept the change of stucco.
So, right, it's only the
on front of
stucco.
the building.
Right, and there is no further change that I'm aware of relative to the openings at the front. We've already reached concurrence on those. We've reached concurrence on the I don't know what you would call that
The
decorative
stucco
feature.
ornament, that's all
That
the.
decorative feature up at the top.
That's all been restored.
Right,
It's
so
in-
that,
it's in-
so that was already agreed upon, and they're still adhering to what was approved before.
Right, the
relative to
arches
that.
over the doors.
Yes.
Yes.
Right, that's
Yes.
been approved.
Yes, and it's been restored to that. I was able
Right.
to, keep that.
Yeah.
I make a motion that we approve it based on the, if you put brick there now with all the other stucco, it wouldn't look appropriate.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Look how clean this rendering shows the parallel parking.
Again, we're not accepting these renderings for any other material facts relative to our town operations.
Notice that.
Okay, before I say we're done, did I miss anything?
Yeah, I didn't want to get fixated on it, Julia, but apparently in Verona, that's the only thing American tourists want to see. Because we were on a tour and we said, no, we don't have tourists. But anyway, so that could really be a draw for the town.
I just want to say that Nick and I have talked a lot, but I would like to say that any exterior changes or modifications, and that goes for all of our applicants tonight, you have to come back in. And please call our office. You don't even have to come back in, or send an email before doing any additional work. Thank you.
It's not the, do it now and ask for forgiveness later.
That's not how I do things. In this situation, it was kind of, I'm new here, so I apologize that
Oh, go ahead.
I apologize that I caused a little bit of stress, but that was not the intent. The intent is to build a beautiful building and be something that's going to be recognized as well done, and I think that's a big
And
corner.
this is an ongoing point, that a lot of the contractors that come in are not familiar with Cape Charles and don't know what they're supposed to do. And so again, it comes back to someone has to be in charge of that.
And now I know. I will definitely be in touch.
So just a reminder, Tracy has something else to add, in general
Yep.
for all applicants.
Just a reminder that the town council did approve our after the fact permit fee or work with no permit fee of $1,000 now. So we will be using that.
Which brings me to the question, do you have a town license, a business
sir.
license?
Yes, sir. I do.
And you, Chris?
Cape Charles business license. I
ask you that this, tonight.
have
Yeah, you
a
have to
license
have one.
for practice in Virginia, but not specifically in Cape,
In the town?
Has to be both.
Yep,
for architectural.
Yep.
yes. I was gonna hit you.
It's a town.
Trust me, I have a
requirement.
friend of mine from Northern Virginia doing a house.
$50 license.
Yeah.
No, understood. Like we
We have our own little,
Okay.
And the
Think we're all
treasurer
done
has,
with you.
has become much more vigilant in pursuing that requirement.
so,
I think we have covered all issues that needed resolution tonight. Have I missed anything, Nick?
No, I actually did very well. Thank you.
Chris, have we missed anything?
No, I don't think, no. But so for the record, the railings as shown, as depicted, and all signage and lighting elements are.
Would need to be a modification request back to this office if you're going to deviate from the original C of A packet. Yes.
so you can't put those on until we approve.
Understood.
And I'm making it clear, we did approve wrought iron, so, and I know that's a
Correct.
New
Yes,
Orleans
we did
style
approve that.
feature, I get that. I don't want anybody to think there won't be wrought iron balconies here, there will be,
Right, there will be.
okay?
Right.
Clelia, is there anything else you'd like to add?
No,
Thank you.
You don't have any.
I'm finished, that is it of my report.
I just need to ask her a question about the Kellogg building. Could you amplify some of your thoughts on the Kellogg building and where we are on that?
Right at this second, no, I really cannot. My brain is just not quite functioning in that particular project at the moment.
Okay.
So I can provide you a better update maybe tomorrow. Okay?
Okay, because we've been in limbo for some time,
I understand. So,
at least.
okay? Are we good? Thank you. Motion to adjourn?
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All in
Bang,
favor?
bang mistake.
Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.